Welcome to this GCSE Biology revision guide on the nervous system. We'll explore how the body detects, processes, and responds to information from the environment. This video covers the entire nervous system, from detecting stimuli to producing responses. We will look at receptors and stimuli, neurons and impulses, the CNS, and reflexes and synapses. The nervous system is the body's rapid communication network. It allows organisms to detect changes, process that information, and produce an appropriate response within fractions of a second. The key components include receptors, which detect stimuli and convert them to electrical signals. Neurones carry electrical impulses. The CNS processes information. Effectors, like muscles and glands, carry out the response. A stimulus is any detectable change in the internal or external environment, such as light, pain, sound, or changes in blood glucose. Detecting stimuli is the crucial first step in any nervous system response. Receptors are specialized cells that detect a specific type of stimulus, converting it into an electrical impulse. This specialization ensures precision in the body's detection of environmental changes. Different types of receptors include photoreceptors in the eye for light, mechanoreceptors in the skin and ear for pressure and vibrations, thermoreceptors for temperature, and chemoreceptors in the nose and tongue for chemical stimuli. When a receptor detects a stimulus, it generates an electrical impulse, a signal transmitted rapidly along neurons. This impulse travels along the neuron's axon, often coated in a myelin sheath, dramatically speeding up transmission. We now begin Chapter 1, focusing on neurons, the body's wiring. Understanding the three types of neurons and how they interact is fundamental for GCSE biology. There are three distinct types of neuron in the nervous system: sensory, relay, and motor. They form a fundamental pathway from detection through to response, sensory to relay to motor. Sensory neurons carry electrical impulses from receptors to the central nervous system, or CNS. They have a long axon, their cell body is outside the CNS, and they carry impulses only towards the CNS. Relay neurons are found exclusively within the central nervous system, connecting sensory neurons to motor neurons. In the spinal cord, they form links in reflex arcs, allowing rapid responses without brain involvement. Motor neurons carry impulses from the CNS to effectors, muscles, and glands. They have a long axon, their cell body is within the CNS, and they carry impulses away from the CNS to stimulate a response. Chapter 2 focuses on the central nervous system. The brain and spinal cord form the body's control and processing center. The central nervous system, or CNS, is comprised of the brain and spinal cord. It receives information from sensory neurons, processes it, and sends instructions to motor neurons, acting as the body's control center. The brain is the most complex organ, controlling conscious thought, memory, and voluntary movement. The spinal cord relays impulses between the brain and the body and coordinates reflex actions. Both are protected by bone. The CNS is the processing hub. All sensory information enters the CNS, and all motor instructions leave it. The system follows an input, process, output model involving sensory, relay, and motor neurons, respectively. Effectors are the organs or tissues that carry out the body's response, receiving instructions from motor neurons. Muscles respond by contracting, which produces movement. Glands respond by secreting hormones or other substances. Muscles contract by shortening in length to produce movement. They can only pull, work in antagonistic pairs, and require energy from respiration. Voluntary muscles respond to conscious commands, while involuntary muscles respond automatically. We now move to Chapter 3, Reflex Actions. These are rapid, automatic, and protective responses that bypass conscious thought for speed. A reflex action is an involuntary, automatic response to a stimulus. Reflexes are processed in the spinal cord, not the brain, making them exceptionally fast to execute. The primary purpose of reflexes is protection. Their speed is critical for survival, allowing the body to react in milliseconds to danger, such as withdrawing from a hot object or blinking to protect the eye. Remember, they are both automatic and fast for exams. The reflex arc is the pathway an impulse follows during a reflex action. It is shorter than a voluntary pathway because the processing center, the spinal cord, bypasses the brain, which only becomes aware of the action afterward. Voluntary actions are slower, involve conscious control, and are processed in the brain's cerebral cortex for planned movement. Reflex actions are very fast, automatic, and processed mainly by the spinal cord for protection. We now begin Chapter 4 on synapses. This covers how chemical messengers, called neurotransmitters, enable signals to cross the tiny gaps between neurons. A synapse is the tiny gap between two adjacent neurons. Since electrical impulses cannot jump this gap, the signal must be converted into a chemical signal to transmit the information to the next neuron. The process begins when an impulse arrives, triggering the release of neurotransmitters. These chemicals diffuse across the gap, bind to receptors on the next neuron, and generate a new electrical impulse to continue the signal. Neurotransmitters carry the signal chemically. They are restored in vesicles, released into the gap, and bind to complementary receptors on the receiving neuron. Synapses only allow signals to travel in one direction. Synapses are important because they ensure directional control of the signal pathway. They also allow for signal filtering and prioritization. Additionally, synapses are the site where many drugs interact with the nervous system. Our final chapter, Chapter 5, focuses on the brain, the body's most complex organ that controls conscious thought, behavior, and all voluntary actions. The brain controls complex behaviors like thought, memory, language, and emotion. It is the most sophisticated organ, coordinating all voluntary and involuntary body functions simultaneously. The three key regions of the brain are the cerebral cortex, responsible for consciousness and intelligence, the cerebellum, which controls balance and coordination, and the medulla oblongata, which manages unconscious vital functions like heart rate and breathing. Scientists investigate brain function using several methods. Brain damage studies link lost functions to damaged areas. Electrical stimulation can trigger specific actions, and MRI scanning shows real-time brain activity, helping us map different functions. We now begin Chapter 6 on reaction time. This section explains how we measure the speed of the nervous system experimentally. Reaction time is the speed between detecting a stimulus and producing a response. The ruler drop test is a common practical used to measure it. A shorter drop distance means a faster reaction time. Several factors affect reaction time. Stimulants speed up neural activity, improving reaction time. Depressants, like alcohol, slow the nervous system. Fatigue also slows responses, while repeated practice can speed them up through learned pathways. To ensure a fair test, control variables like the person dropping the ruler, no warnings, consistent positioning, and avoiding drugs. To improve reliability, repeat the test multiple times, calculate a mean, and discard anomalous results. This final part of the video focuses on key tips for your exams, highlighting the most important concepts to master for success. Remember that reflex actions are automatic, requiring no conscious thought, and they are fast because the impulse only travels through the spinal cord, bypassing the brain. Both points are crucial for exam explanations. Avoid common exam mistakes. Don't confuse sensory and motor neurons. Remember that signals diffuse chemically across synapses, they do not jump, and always mention that effectors are both muscles and glands. This diagram summarizes the full nervous system pathway. Memorize the sequence from stimulus to response: receptor, sensory neuron, CNS, motor neuron, and effector. Mastering this pathway will help you answer most nervous system questions. Here is a summary of all the key vocabulary. Ensure you can accurately define each term before your exam, especially stimulus, receptor, all neuron types, CNS, effector, synapse, and reflex action. Test your understanding with these exam-style practice questions. Pause the video and try to answer them before moving on to the solutions. Check your answers here. Ensure your reflex arc pathway is correctly sequenced. Your explanation of reflex speed references the spinal cord. You use neurotransmitter for synapses, and you define both muscle and gland effectors. For final revision, draw the reflex arc from memory. Create and use flashcards for all key definitions, and practice timed exam questions using precise scientific language. Good luck with your exam.